Cool, baby.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Jikook Moments. Have you ever seen a moment that was actually very simple, but suddenly turned into a big theory that feels overblown? Episode 2 of Run BTS is a perfect example. On one side, we're given laughter, chaos, and spontaneous interactions that are incredibly entertaining. But on the other side, there are narratives that seem to try to turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. So the question is, was there really something special there? Or are we just seeing what we want to see? In this video, we're going to break everything down in a clearer, more structured, and objective way. We'll separate what is actually visible from what is purely assumption. Because sometimes, understanding things as they are is far more interesting than exaggerating them. We've all watched the second episode of Run BTS. An episode full of laughter, chaotic energy, and spontaneous moments that make it feel alive. But as usual, behind all that fun, there's always a small group trying to push certain narratives just to satisfy their own perspective. So now, let's go through everything in a clearer, more logical, and objective way. Because honestly, this topic has been blown out of proportion far too often, as if something intense happened, when in reality, it was just a very normal moment. It all started from a simple scene in Run BTS. At that time, Taeyoung walked into a room where Jungkook was already there. There was no dramatic build-up, no prior interaction hinting at something special, and no context supporting a larger interpretation. It was simply a transitional scene that happened naturally, like many others in the episode. Inside the room, Jungkook was already lying comfortably on the bed. He was playing on his phone, fully immersed in his own world. His body language showed neutral comfort. He wasn't waiting for anyone, didn't react to any particular presence, and showed no emotional shift when Taeyoung entered. This is important to note, because narratives are often built from small details that don't actually have a strong foundation. Meanwhile, Taeyoung entered casually and chose his own bed. There was no physical interaction, no meaningful conversation, not even a small gesture that could be interpreted as something different. They were simply in the same room, that's all. Yet somehow, from this very simple moment, various interpretations emerged that go far beyond what actually happened. Narratives like, they slept together, began to appear, even though, literally speaking, that's not accurate. The room had multiple beds, and each of them used their own. There was no sharing of a bed, no physical closeness, and no interaction that could serve as a basis for such theories. This isn't about denying interpretations, but about distinguishing between visible facts and constructed assumptions. This is where things become both interesting and controversial. How standards of judgment often shift depending on perspective or the ship someone supports. Because if a very neutral moment like this is considered evidence, then logically, other interactions that are much clearer and more consistent should carry more weight. When we talk about the dynamic between Jungkook and Jimin, what we see isn't just a single isolated scene, but a pattern of repeated interactions. There is continuity. There is consistency. And most importantly, there is a naturalness that's difficult to fabricate. They haven't just been in the same room. They've shared space in a way that feels comfortable. On several occasions, they've even shared a bed without awkwardness. Moments like these happen naturally, without excessive framing or the need for layered analysis to make them seem meaningful. With Jimin, Jungkook often shows a different side. He appears more relaxed, more open, and more responsive. There's consistent physical interaction, small touches, close proximity, and gestures that reflect trust. All of it happens without force, without dramatization, and that's exactly why it feels more real. Their closeness doesn't rely on one big moment. Instead, its strength lies in the accumulation of small moments that, when seen as a whole, create a solid picture. The way they seek each other out, the way they respond, and the visible comfort between them, all of it forms a consistent dynamic. In contrast to the scene with Taeyoung, which objectively shows no significant interaction, the dynamic between Jungkook and Jimin often carries additional layers. There's warmth, emotional nuance, and sometimes even a playful or slightly flirtatious side that appears naturally without being forced. However, the real issue isn't the existence of theories or ships themselves. Fandom has always had space for interpretation, and that's completely normal. What becomes exhausting is when those interpretations lead to unnecessary comparisons, or even diminish other dynamics just to validate one perspective. Comments like, "This one feels forced," or "He looks happier here," are often not based on clear facts, but on personal bias. And if we return to what is actually visible on screen, many of those claims don't have a strong foundation. So let's go back to that initial scene. Simply put, Jungkook is lying on the bed, playing on his phone. Taehyung walks in, then lies on another bed. No significant interaction. No special moment. The rest is interpretation. On the other hand, if we look at Jungkook and Jimin's dynamic as a whole, there is much more substance to observe. There's consistency in gestures, repeated closeness, and a level of comfort that doesn't need explanation because it speaks for itself. At the end of the day, everyone is free to believe what they want. Interpretation is part of how we enjoy content. But it's also important to distinguish between what actually happens and what we add as meaning. Because not all moments carry the same weight. Some are simply what they are, while others have depth because they are supported by consistency and context. And in the case of Jungkook and Jimin, many people see something special not because it's exaggerated, but because of the naturalness and continuity they've shown over time. Moving on from that discussion, it's also interesting to see how BTS continues to dominate on a global level, not only through interactions that always draw attention, but also through consistently outstanding musical achievements. This time, the spotlight is on their song, Swim, which has captured attention on the Billboard Global 200 chart. This chart isn't just any list. It measures a song's worldwide popularity based on a combination of streaming and sales across multiple countries. That means reaching the top requires broad and consistent appeal across the globe. Swim debuted at #1 in early April, already a massive achievement. But what makes it even more impressive is its ability to stay there. In its first 4 weeks, it spent 3 at #1. This shows that the song isn't just a temporary hit, it truly dominates. Amid the constant wave of new music releases from global artists, maintaining the top position is no easy task. Competition is intense, and trends shift quickly. Yet, Swim remains relevant, widely played, and a top choice across platforms. This achievement further strengthens BTS's position as one of the biggest artists in the world today. They don't just create hits, they set new standards in the global music industry. In fact, with Swim, they've widened the gap between themselves and other major artists in terms of #1 songs on that chart. Compared to BTS's previous releases, Swim now stands alongside their biggest hits. Dynamite still holds the record with 8 weeks at #1, while Butter also achieved impressive numbers. Currently, Swim is just 1 week behind Butter, opening up the possibility of matching or even surpassing that achievement. Not only globally, but Swim is also performing strongly in key markets like the United States. This shows that BTS doesn't just have a massive fan base, but also a broad appeal that reaches diverse audiences. This success proves that BTS is not just a temporary phenomenon. They are a growing global force, capable of staying relevant and dominant in a rapidly changing industry. In the end, everyone is free to have their own interpretation. That's part of the fun of being a fan. But what's equally important is being able to distinguish between reality and perception. Because not every moment needs to carry a grand meaning. And sometimes, it's in simplicity that we find the most honesty. Whether it's small, natural interactions, or massive achievements that shake the world, BTS always finds a way to capture our attention. And maybe that's their real strength. Not forced, not fabricated, but still undeniably special. If you agree, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Jikook Moments. See you in the next video.